U.S. President Joe Biden has arrived in the state of Louisiana for a first-hand look at the damage brought on by Hurricane Ida. Torrential rain brought widespread flooding, and power was cut to 1 million people after the storm hit the U.S. Gulf Coast last weekend. It caused more flooding as it moved to the northeast. New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania are the worst-hit states. 45 people have been killed in the region. Kristen Salumi standing by in Elizabeth, New Jersey. But first, let's go to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. So the president now in Louisiana. Kimberly, tell us a little bit more about what his plans are.
Well, the U.S. president wants to survey the damage caused by Hurricane Ida on his own. It really does make a difference when you set your eyes on it. The pictures on television and that are photographed just don't do it justice in terms of really understanding the scale and the scope. And so that's why the governor of Louisiana invited the president down. Not only does he want to ensure that the millions affected by this storm in his state get the support they need, but also that it gets there quickly. You have to remember that when Ida hit shortly after, more than 1 million people were without power. Some of that has still not been restored, and 500,000 were without water. And again, some of that is still not restored. And so that is the concern, coordinating the federal response, because, of course, we know that the storm didn't stop in the southeastern United States. It cut a swath all the way up the northeast. It even hit about an hour from here in Annapolis, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. So significant impact, and the president really there to kind of get a feeling for just how bad the damage is and what he can do in order to ensure that those that have been hit the hardest get the help that they need.
Right. And how much pressure is on the Biden administration to actually do something about climate change with the multiple crises we're seeing in the U.S.?
Yeah, the U.S. president has been talking about this recently, including today, but he campaigned on this. This was a campaign promise, and it really motivated a lot of young people, for which climate change is a critical issue, to support Joe Biden. And now they're looking at him and saying, hey, we need you to deliver on those campaign promises. Now, he has identified that he believes that climate change is an existential threat. And to that end, there have already been a number of measures that the Biden administration has put in place. But the one he's really eyeing now is the infrastructure package that's currently in Congress. He wants to see that pushed through in order to make the infrastructure of the United States more robust. Why? Because the storms are more severe than they have ever been before in the United States. And it's not just what we're seeing on the East Coast. The West Coast is also experiencing the effects of climate change through the wildfires, that season lasting longer and burning hotter than it has in more than a century when records were recorded. So what the president is saying is, I'm hearing you. I know what needs to be done. I need Congress to get on board. He is under a lot of pressure. His supporters say, look, you've got a Democrat-controlled Congress and you control the White House. This is your opportunity to do something, and we're watching you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Kimberly Halkett reporting from Washington, D.C. Let's now get an update from Kristen Salumi. She's joining us from Elizabeth, New Jersey. As we've been saying, New Jersey has been one of the hardest hit states. Kristen, talk us through what you've seen where you are.
Yeah, the death toll here has risen to 25, the highest death toll in the country as a result of Hurricane Ida. 4 of those deaths happened here in Elizabeth, New Jersey. So today, really, people we're seeing everywhere cleaning up and taking stock. Those 4 fatalities happened in the apartment complex you see behind me. Let me give you a little sense of what people went through. If you look over here, you can see some of the vehicles. This parking lot was completely submerged in water over the tops of the cars. And it really took people here by surprise. Everyone we talked to said that they did not see this coming. This area was not evacuated. It's since been evacuated. So if you can imagine the water up to here, people in this building over here tell us that it was to the top of the doorways. And as the water began to rise, people on the bottom floor couldn't open their doors. And sadly, 4 people in this building on the bottom floor were not able to get out. And we heard these harrowing stories from neighbors who said they were getting calls from people who needed help. A maintenance person made a heroic rescue of a woman who was trapped, swimming across the parking lot to get her door open and get her out, but others were not able to do that. So now this entire complex, some 6,000 people in this area and the surrounding area have been evacuated. The power is out for some 12,000 residents of New Jersey. And everywhere we go, we see people emptying out soggy furniture, soggy mattresses from lower level apartments and basement apartments in New York, where there were 11 fatalities. All the people who died there were in basement apartments, again, where the water rose so quickly that they just simply could not get out. And what's really fascinating, talking to people here, including people who've been here for 20 years and more, is that they've never seen flooding in these areas like this. Even back in 2012, when Superstorm Sandy came through and really wreaked havoc on New Jersey and New York, these areas were not that badly affected. And while a lot of money was spent after that storm to make the area more resilient, it was focused on coastal areas. And what we saw here was so much rain in such a short amount of time, record-setting rain, as much as 9 centimeters in an hour. It was too much for the systems, the drainage systems, to accept, and it's just behind the building over here that the water, that the river flows, and it just quickly came up and over the bank. And so the systems were not able to handle it. And with storms like this expected to become more common, that's where you have local officials, the governor of New Jersey, the governor of New York, asking for that federal assistance from Joe Biden to make those systems more resilient.
Okay, thank you so much. Kristen Salumi reporting from New Jersey.